I'm not a terribly emotional person, but I tear up every once in a while. And at Steve's death, of course. But then in reading Facing the Music, this marvelous biography by Clay, there's a moment when he describes the song that Steve sang at his father's funeral, The Dutchman. It's a song that none of us will ever forget, and Steve sang it so beautifully. But of course, he also collaborated with the composer, Michael Smith, with a number of other songs. Michael?
First time I see was in Atlanta. Barbara and I were working a club there that's no longer there, I think. And Steve had played the night before, and we were working with a band at that time. And, we were going to stay at the club. Everybody stayed at the club upstairs, you know. And Steve and Nancy gave up their room for us. And I think he had started doing some of my songs already. He was very friendly, and I was real kind of standoffish with this guy, you know. And it took me a long time to get him, you know, that's the best way I can put it. And I think it was not his nature, but mine. I think I have a tendency to be careful around people when I first meet him. And he was, I must say, just very, very friendly and clearly a very nice man. You know, I could tell right away. And a few months later, he called me up and he said he recorded a tune of mine, and then I actually focused on it. You know what I mean? It was something about me. I focused on it, and I mean, I can't begin to tell you how much good being associated in any way with him was for our employment. All of a sudden, you know, we were playing songs in Chicago and people would know them, and it was because of Steve. You know, it was a big deal to be connected with him.
Michael, what did you grow up listening to?
Doo-wop. First thing I listened to was doo-wop. And I have my own, look, everybody has their theories, right? I loved doo-wop. I was in a doo-wop group that sang bass, you know, and I loved it. It was a cappella music that you sang with people at school, you know, and did dances and things. And then I played in dance bands and stuff, and I played in clubs, you know, drinking clubs, you know, where people got really loaded, and you did top 40, you know, and I did that for a long time. And for me, what it was I started out playing music because I loved the guitar. And I think the guitar has a power and a mystery that through the centuries has attracted people. Literally the guitar, not music, but the guitar, the sound of it and the look of it, and the way you play it and what's possible with it. And I think just around 1959, 58, 59, the guitar in rock and roll were not grooving together, and it wasn't fun to play the music that was coming out in 1959. It was like Frankie Avalon. It was shit. And it was on the radio, you know what I mean? And you had to turn away, and when you turned away, what you saw was the Kingston Trio, who were hot, and they were slamming, and they were playing these mysterious songs you'd never heard anyplace else, and they played chord progressions that you'd never heard anyplace else. And that was the first time that I thought, it's interesting to play the guitar. You don't have to be Elvis Presley. You don't have to, how do I put it, have this tremendous charisma to play music when the music is so attractive. And it was built on, of course, English folk music and calypso and the blues to some degree. But the Kingston Trio and Harry Belafonte brought out the mystery that exists in music that was missing from about 1957 to about 1960, 1963. And then when the Beatles came, what they did essentially was they played folk changes to a rhythm beat. In other words, they weren't playing dum 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 dum. You know, it was done. They were done with that. They were done with doo-wop, and they were done with what survives as cliche rock and roll, and they were playing chord progressions that were like based on more things like green sleeves almost, and the harmonies that they were doing were very English sounding, and I mean ancient sounding in certain ways. You know, there was this clarion call. They were just, and also they knew how to play. They were very good at playing. But for me, the what carried music from when it got very interesting about the second Elvis Presley release, it got real and interesting. From that's to say, '57. What carried it through to a place where I wanted to continue playing guitar.
And I think it would be a mistake if we didn't get Michael to talk with us about just what it was like to co-write a song with Steve Goodman. Of course, Steve's version of The Dutchman we all cherish, but perhaps lesser known is some of the songs like Elvis Imitators and Vegematic and Talk Backwards. This is a co-write with Michael. Could you address this a little bit?
Yeah, it was like when you how do I put this? If you feed a machine, it'll come up with stuff. Okay, and so I would say to him, Steve, we're going to do a tune about a guy who goes to a place that's a school called Six Flags Over Jesus. It's a religious school, and I heard that term someplace, and I think they talked to Oral Roberts. They said Oral Roberts University, Six Flags Over Jesus, and I thought that was funny. That's a funny notion. A school called Six Flags Over Jesus, and he said, I can't sing Six Flags Over Jesus. That would make my audience very nervous. And he changed it to Six Flags Over Burbank, and then we kind of went from there. But it was really like, you just had to prod him, and he would come up with stuff. And a lot of times it would be like, we would meet to write, and I would say, I would like to do a song about a guy who was a sincere Elvis imitator. Okay? And he'd go, okay, wait a minute. And then he'd sit down and he'd start to write. And I'd sit there for a while, and he'd go, okay, here's what I got. And I'd say, I'd like to change that one chord. And he'd go, okay. And truly, that was what happened. It was, I take months. I'll think of a premise for a song, and I'll do 4 different versions of it, and a certain amount of sitting around, just kind of, gazing off into the middle distance. And, I take a long time, and he was like, just like that, and it was very quick, and then this was the thing that was really cool, is he would perform it like he was going to do it on the stage. He'd stand up in front of you, and he'd play the song just the way he was going to do it, and he would do facial things and stuff, which I was like, it's very fun. And when we had Talk Backwards, I said, do you remember, what was the tune? Yeah, the name game. And I said, let's do something about the name game. That's like the name game, only a guy who talks backwards. That's a thing. It's somebody who thinks talking backwards is a good idea. I think that's a funny idea, And then he started this tune, and he got to the place where it was a line in it about how you essentially were advising people that it's a good idea to talk backwards. It's like he's giving you a little life lesson. Hey, you want to be cool? Talk backwards. And at that point, he gave this look like he was really letting me in on, heavy shit. Everybody, talk backwards, If you know what's good for you, talk backwards. And he gave me this look, and I just fell down. And what I saw from that was that there was a level of intense involvement that this gentleman had, where he could bring out the implications to something that you might ordinarily just go by. You might, someone else would go, oh, that's interesting, and then, because I've certainly, how do I put it, I get odd premises for tunes, and we'll advance them to people sometimes in the throes of being very enthusiastic. I think I'm going to write a song about, But Goodman would do that. Goodman would go, oh, okay, we can do this. And when we did it, he did 90%. I mean, really, I gotta say. I'd go in the room, I'd give him the premise, and then I'd sit down and watch the machine go to work. And now and again I'd go, oh, that's really good, or I don't care for that part, or we need to go over here. And it was like that. It was very exciting, I must say. And he gave me a feeling that I don't get. I never got collaborating with anybody else, which was that the possibilities were very, very exciting. And you never knew what was going to happen. And truly, I would love to have this from somebody else, or I would love to get it from myself. But you know, it's like, I only get it when I'm done with the song. He had it right at the beginning. He'd go, oh, this will be fun, you know. It was like that. It was cool. It was exciting.
And he did it speedily.
Very, very, very quick. That was something else. Very quick. He was very quick. And it was quick in general. You know, when you talk to him, it was like, you know, sometimes I'm reminded of Steve when people are on the phone, on the street, and they're on the phone. If you walked up to them and you said something to them while they were on the phone, it would be like you were talking to Steve. It was like he was on the phone. And what I'm talking about here is, the mind was racing, you know, and he would do things that I would take offense at sometimes. You know, he'd go, Michael, how are you? Hey, Fred, hey, Charlie, it was like that. You know, and you'd be like, you know, he just buzzed by, you know, and it was that he was reverent in a way that I didn't feel the need to. But I've had two lives compared to him. You know, at this point, I have two lives compared to him, and I think that there was a consciousness that people who are threatened like that will never have.
Michael, could you talk about, I mean, you visited Goodman out there in Seal Beach, and you had some definite opinions about what Steve was training for.
Well, you know, it took me a long time to come to this place, but one of the things I'm seeing is, you know, there's a milieu here in Chicago that just doesn't really exist, that I've experienced anyplace else. And it's a circle kind of thing that has to do with FMT, and it has to do with the Old Town School, and it has to do with clubs like Earl, it's particularly Earl's. And that, sometimes, you know, you go to the park and they have those plants in the greenhouse, you know what I'm saying? It was like, there was a way to grow here. If you were off the wall, you could still grow, okay? And you take that off-the-wall quality and you put it someplace where people don't give a damn. And suddenly, it's very strange. You know, like I saw Steve on Tonight Show. And he did Men Who Love Women Who Love Men, which is a charming little song, you know, a charming little song. Not one of his better, in my opinion, not one of his better tunes, but he did that. And you know, the reason he did, I'll hypothesize, the reason he did that was because of the atmosphere of the Tonight Show. Where I don't think, you know, Jay Leno or whoever it is going to go, hey, do the tune that touches people's hearts. You know what I mean? They're not going to know from you, and they're going to put you in the spotlight and give us something snazzy, kid. You know what I mean? It's like that, okay? So what I'm saying here is, I think that I went up to his house in Evanston. Was it Evanston? Yeah. Asbury? Oh man, it's a beautiful house. It was just big, spacious, the kids, you know what I mean? It was a beautiful, lovely, shady street. The house was wonderful. The kitchen was great. You know what I mean? It was you could write in the kitchen, you know what I mean? It was big, spacious, and it was here. It was here, you know, okay? And then I went and I visited him and worked with him in Seal Beach, which was a place that had houses where they were this far apart from one another, and there was oil derricks on the beach. You know what I'm saying? It was very, I don't know, it was very, it was Hollywood. It was Hollywood, the Hollywood bedroom, you know what I'm saying? And that was no place to make what it was he made, in my opinion, you know. It slants you different, you know, and and trying to get into movies slants you different. I mean, you know, what we're talking about here is a unique situation that Steve Goodman had where he could do something. Well, what Steve Martin said in this book, he says, you know, a guy could get out in front of an audience and in 20 seconds he had him, you know, with what it was he did. And what it was he did, I don't know that that belonged to the movies. I mean, I would have said that to him if I had the sense, you know what I mean? Because I've tried the same thing. You know, I've tried the same thing, you know. You try to get pop, and man, it just cuts your roots out from under you if you're not naturally pop. I gotta stop.